Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the greatest, but let me play devil's advocate here. Let's see. So, no, that's a good thing. That's definitely not a problem. Reese's, you did it. You stumped this charming devil.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in, Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. We're back on a Friday. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I'm joined by Matthew. Stop laughing at me, Betz.
What was that little giggle?
It did come out involuntary.
I don't even know what that was. Yeah, welcome in. Another great week, a great Friday to talk best ball. And we haven't done a mailbag in a very long time. I hope that you are not going to make me do the mailbag drop because I'm not prepared to do it. But after your little giggle, it can't get worse, I guess.
I feel like I have a pretty good laugh. I don't usually give freebies. I'm not going to laugh at something that's not funny, but I am willing to go there. I know that you laugh very easily.
What are you trying to say?
You and Mike are easy laughs.
I mean, I just like to be positive, Kyle. You know, I like to enjoy life, laugh at small stuff, make fun of people, mainly you. Yeah, life's too short, man. You got to laugh.
I feel like people would describe me as someone that's genuinely happy, but maybe when I get behind the mic and I start sorting through data, maybe that's what it is. Maybe the spreadsheets have made me a curmudgeon sometimes.
I thought you were about to say that's what makes you happy in life. When I get behind the mic and I pull up Excel, I mean, I just, I'm just happy to be here. That's what I pictured you there in your cave, haven't seen the sun in weeks, in days. Just mining all of the data to win best ball.
All right, let me get out in front of this right now, people, because your boy over here not only saw the sun today, but our company is in the midst of a really fun season right now where pretty much everybody has a Whoop tracker. So if you don't know what a Whoop is, it's just one of those things that you can get, people have Apple Watches that track their health stuff. The Whoop, though, tracks all of our training. So pretty much daily, I can see what Betz or Andy or Mike or Jason or anybody else, what they're doing and what, did they sleep last night? Well, what's their recovery score at? Did they do anything? And I mean anything like getting off the couch. And so Betz and I are kind of going a little back and forth. The other day, he thought he could have the victory. And then I just went to town. And I was dead the next day, but my pickleball for about 3 hours just won me the day for the strain.
Yeah, you gave Gladys, a run for her money out there on the pickleball courts. No, it's fun, man. I just joined the Whoop fam. Not a sponsor, but could
not a sponsor, but please sponsor.
But could please be a sponsor of the show. I love it, and it's always good to, I think, have a reminder, external feedback source to just make healthy choices. So I like it, man. It's good, and like you said, there's a nice little camaraderie with the crew here as far as that goes. So yeah, it's fun, man. I've liked it so far. But again, to be clear, not a sponsor, but to be even more clear, could be a sponsor. So again, DMs are open.
I feel like my sleep has just gone through the roof. And I know that you're still in the toddler phase and you will be in that phase for a little bit longer. So I kind of see why your sleep score is not as good. But man, one day your kids will not only just sleep through the night, they won't wake you up in the morning.
I'm counting down the days.
It's going to be good. Yeah, on this podcast, we're going to be talking best ball strategy. We got some great questions, including some of our favorite builds and contrarian takes that we have. Even a question about, is best ball a minus EV format? Like, is this just not a good format for us to invest our money in? And there's good and bad things about that. So we have some good research to be able to share with you. And at the very end of this podcast, I'm just going to say it right now, Betz, I'm going to have an intervention with you.
Please, I need it.
I feel like there's other people that wish they could get on the mic with me and just say, hey, this has gone on for too long. You're hurting too many people with some of your best ball choices. So at the end of this podcast, I will get to sit down with Betz and say, hey, where are you spending your hard-earned money? In the past, I've seen you spend money on certain players, go overboard, and it's costing your children their future, like Mark Andrews. So I can't let that happen again.
I mean, you tell me. Who was the tight end 5 last year, Kyle? You tell me. Check the tapes, okay, brother?
Hey, I was right there with you the whole time. I was just clicking the button because you told me to. All of our rankings, best ball primer, our season-long props, you can get them in the Ultimate Draft Kit Plus. Go to ultimatedraftkit.com if you want to get in on that. And over the next couple of months, we will be adding videos to our DFS pass. So, here's some of our best ball strategy videos. Here's ones for DFS that Betz have in the hopper. Like I'm looking right now. I'm pointing right now. I know this is audio format, but I'm pointing at a list where I have some DFS videos that I think will be helpful for noobs, but even some advanced strategy you and I are going to go over. So lots of stuff over the summer. We are glad that you are with us. Let's just jump right in.
Best Ball Bonanza.
Yeah, I didn't make you do the drop.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Also, I realized that a lot of times when you're transitioning from one segment to another in audio form, like a podcast, you say, let's jump right in. Is that a normal thing to say?
I think so. I don't know.
Let's jump in. I also got some feedback from somebody, a friend of mine, who said, you know what you say a lot on your podcast is when you give examples, Kyle, you say, hey, and I go into an example as if I'm talking as if I'm somebody else. So call me out, Betz, if I say the word hey on this podcast a lot.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. I'll track it.
First question, and these are all going to be Discord questions because I think the people that we have in there over the summer and the people that will be there are just amazing. And they ask really good, a lot of sharp questions. I was asking the other day about Josh Downs and, hey, what's y'all's exposure levels to Josh Downs? People were giving some really, really good responses. So our Discord channel that is available only for people to Ultimate Draft Kit Plus, our best ball one, is hopping. That's where I got these from. So specifically those people, you get a shout out. First one is Eric Sipola ask, what's your favorite build right now early in the summer? He asked, is it hero RB, double hero RB or whatever? So I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a favorite per se as far as like this is how I'm going into my drafts.
Good players.
Trying to build. Yeah, I just try to draft the good guys and not the bad ones. And obviously that's how you print. But I will say right now, it's still the part of the summer. We're getting like a little trickle of news, right? Like we got J.K. Dobbins signed, Nick Chubb signed. We're still waiting on clarity on Noah Brown's injury, but we had an injury in camp. And we're kind of slowly getting those things. As we get into July and especially like mid-August, we're going to have a lot of information at our disposal to adjust kind of how we're drafting. And I think at that point, you'll be able to draft some more thin players later. So this isn't really like a build per se, but it kind of ties in. What I was going to say is like later in the rounds, round 17, round 18, we've talked about this a lot. There's some running backs that I want to throw a dart on, but I'm just not sure. Is that the RB2? Are they buried on the depth chart? Are they even going to make the team? Like, for example, if people are trying to draft Kyle Monungai, 7th round pick, I don't know, is he even going to be on the roster? So like right now, when I'm thinking about later in my drafts, who are kind of the safest ways right now to avoid zeros in my draft, which we know is a really important thing based off of advance rate and as well in playoffs and tournaments. To me, there's like some tight ends that I'm like, okay, I can see it with these guys that go here. Theo Johnson, Juwan, or is that right? Theo Johnson and Juwan Johnson. That's what threw me off for a second. I almost said Jennings, Juwan Johnson, the Johnsons, obviously in round 18. It's not sexy, but Cade Otton falls a bunch and Dalton Schultz. Like those guys obviously are not winning you best ball tournaments. But right now I'm trying to avoid zeros. And so to come back to the question, I'm actually doing a lot of 3 tight end builds currently just because when you get late, there's question marks all over the place. And I know at least we're getting routes with those types of guys. So I would say right now I have a lot more 3 tight end builds, but I've always been a big fan of hero running back drafting. And I think the current setup as far as ADP landscape, both on DraftKings and on Underdog, sets up well for it this year. But I would say for me right now, 3 tight end builds are pretty common.
One of the things you'll hear us say a lot on this podcast is we don't want to repeat what happened last year. What worked last year, we just look at that and do the same thing. That's what ADP reflects. And so with running backs, you've seen over the last couple of years, it lended itself towards a zero RB approach. And yet last year, running backs crushed, just absolutely crushed if you had early running backs. And some of those early wide receivers were not great. And so this year, you see a lot of the running back prices pushed up. And so for me, it is a lot of hero RB approaches where I have a lot of McCaffrey. He's up much higher in my ranks than he is in ADP. And then across the industry, I think I have McCaffrey as like my 7th or 8th player. And a lot of times you can get him at the 1-2 turn. So McCaffrey's on a lot of my teams. And I'm kind of unashamed at this point of I'm calling my shot. I'm saying that he's going to be a difference maker. And maybe I'll lighten my load later on in the summer, especially if we get news and we get more and more, drumbeat of like, he's everything, he's back, and he moves up even further. But hero RB, and then the thing that I'm noticing is that I am taking these rookie running backs. Like I like the spot where Travion Henderson, Judkins, and Caleb Johnson. Notice I didn't say RJ Harvey, but I like those guys. I like where they're going.
What's wrong with Harvey?
He's fine if he's in the 70s, which he is not.
He will be soon. And I think, for you, you're going to get the best prices on Harvey that basically nobody has because you were just unwilling to draft him at like around.
And part of that is stubborn. I'm not saying that I was like right doing it, but I made the call of I don't know if he's going to get the workload that everyone says. That was part of it. And then 2, as a prospect, I was a little bit further down on him. And then part of my stubbornness entered in. I didn't know they were going to sign J.K. Dobbins, but I am going to get a better price than people got before. He could still be awesome, and it doesn't matter.
Well, then you should be drafting him.
Then he will in the 70s.
He will fall there. I was just doing a draft right before we hit record. He fell to, I think it was 72 was the pick he went. So just kind of a context for where he might go. But yeah, the rookie running backs, I also feel like it's a good time, and this isn't necessarily part of this question, but the ADP landscape sets up well to be able to kind of mix and match running back archetypes. If you are going to kind of wait until this like 5-6 round area to draft running backs, like Kamara, super steady early season production. You can project that very well for the first 2 months. Am I concerned maybe he falls off later in the year? Sure. We've been worried about that the last 2 years. Am I concerned about New Orleans systemically? Sure. But like if you pair him with an RJ Harvey or, Travion Henderson, who it might take a little while, or Marion Hampton, like Najee might be the annoying for us in weeks 1 through 5. But like when we're thinking about mixing and matching those archetypes, I think right now the ADP landscape sets up super well for you to be able to do that. So yeah, I'm with you, man. The rookie running backs are always very intriguing. And I feel like last year we tried to do this with rookie running backs and it was a different cost, right? They were going a little bit later. But from a prospect evaluation standpoint, last year we led every conversation with the running backs of it's not the greatest class. And so if you're willing to like trust that analysis and go with a lot of the veterans, they crushed. This year, we're all super excited about those rookie running backs. So right now, week 1 projections don't look incredible for these guys. But again, we're playing for late season upside. So I'm with you. I'm definitely trying to prioritize those guys.
Next question is Jason from Jason's 3-foot shoehorn, which, by the way, if you've ever seen, well, maybe you've never seen Jason do it, but Jason is hilarious. He used to just not put on his shoes. He used to let his children put them on his feet. Because he would just tell you, he's like, I didn't want to bend down and do it. So they would put on my socks and shoes for me in the morning.
That's phenomenal.
Oh, man. His question is, how should best ball strategy change if you're entering a non-flagship contest like the Schnauzer on Underdog or single entry tournaments? I just want to say those are actually my favorite ones. Because, and we'll talk about it more later about is best ball EV. If I cannot max enter a tournament, it's not great. It's not great in terms of expectation. So when I find ones like the Schnauzer, that's what, like a 20 max, or some of these other ones that are like, under 10 or under, that's really, really fun because I know that it's time boxed. I know that there's a certain time in the summer where the Schnauzer 2, which is open right now, it's $3, 20 max. I know when that is. That's going to be June. And I can label all of my drafts as Schnauzer 2 is June. The Schnauzer 1 was end of May. So it allows me to kind of think based on where the field's too overconfident. So all the time you and I say, I don't want zeros in my lineup. And a lot of the running backs that are drafted in this period, once we get to August, we're going to be like, why were we drafting this player at 180, 170? There are going to be zeros in your lineup for the most part. So I like leveraging the field's overconfidence in that period. And there's a lot of dusty wide receivers that people are drafting. It picks 180 through 200, whatever, that are not going to even make the roster, or they end up being the wide receiver 5 or 6, or we get clarity of the guys that were super late that will end up like, we'll talk later, the Jets. Who is the Jets wide receiver 2? Who should I be drafting? Because nobody's drafting that player right now. They're literally being undrafted. I will get information about that later on, that in those tournaments in July or August that are smaller, I can have clarification on that. Because right now I'm not stacking Justin Fields with anybody but Mason Taylor and Garrett Wilson. So at the end of the day, I like small tournaments. And I know you do for DFS. Do you feel the same way for best ball?
Yeah, there's a question about, I guess it's our next question, which we'll get into in a minute, about just like the overall expectation for win rates and EV and all those things with best ball, which is kind of its own form of fantasy and betting, right? And I've always said on the DFS side of things, like, don't get me wrong, I love the idea of throwing some darts in the lottos and all those things. The truth is, most people in those style tournaments will lose in the long run, unless you've got great projections and all the things you're doing. You have a track record that proves you're great at those things. Like, I could be, in theory, an awesome best ball player because of great rankings and roster construction.
Hypothetically, you could be good.
Hypothetically, in a world that exists, not this current one, that could all happen. But you could play really well and still lose. And we talk about that on the DFS side of things as well. So even though you're building the right teams for these large field lottos, just think about it. Like, you need so many things to go right to even like have a chance to realize your EV, that for me, I actually do prefer the smaller tournaments because, I don't know, I'd like to like win some money every now and then, right? Doing this, like, that's kind of what we're trying to do. It's obviously fun and we do it for a hobby and entertainment, but at the end of the day, you are trying to win some money. And so these smaller tournaments actually allow you to, I think, realize your edge sometimes. Whereas in large field tournaments, you could just chase your tail for 4, 5, 6 seasons in a row before you actually ever win. So there are advantages and disadvantages to the large and smaller field ones. I will also say in some of the ones that are smaller, especially like single entry, DK's got one right now or 2 right now. I know Underdog's got a couple. Make sure you're reading the rules. Like, it's so important to understand what the advanced structure is, not like Best Ball Mania where you have to hit the absolute nuts in every round to even get out of those rounds to make the final. Some of these finals are like 20 people, 50 people. And in that style contest, I'm just trying to build solid, sound teams with a good set of rankings. In large field lottos, like DK Millie, Best Ball Mania, I need to think about what my teams need in weeks 15, 16, and 17 as far as like correlation, making sure you have the stacks right, all of those things. In a tournament like what's going on right now in Underdog, they've got the Greyhound. It's 53 people in the final. I might prioritize like one game in week 17 and just kind of like mini stack something, but like, I'm just trying to build a good team that when it gets there, I don't need the absolute nuts. And we talk about that on the DFS side of things as well. So just make sure, I can't emphasize it enough. I think a lot of people hear the overarching kind of themes of what you should do in best ball, and they just apply those to every single draft they're in, no matter what the structure is. But you need to match your drafting style and goals to what is actually required to win the tournament.
The Greyhound is probably one of the better, I mean, it's a single entry, so it's one of the better tournaments for you to just say, I'm going to focus and put all of my energy into building a good team with the principles that we care about and not trying to hit the nuts. Like, you're not trying to figure out which wide receiver 8 on your roster is the one you needed for week 16, 17. Like, I'd love to be able to find that player, but there's a reason they're being drafted in that spot. So in these smaller tournaments, we're just focused on the right builds. And for a lot of people, like, you can, the person that's drafting 4 quarterbacks, 5 quarterbacks for the most part is already a 0 in your league. Like it's like you can already like push them aside. You look at some other people that don't have the right stacking options or they reached on ADP. There's a lot of principles that we care about. So we usually care about uniqueness in a large field tournament, especially in DFS. In a small field one, I'm like, okay, I'm going to find the ADP values. I'm going to dare my room. A lot of times it's like, I'm going to make sure that they're going to take an unstacked player, and I'm not trying to force the playoff stacks. So I love tournaments like that. The Greyhound is a great one. The Golden is another one that's out there. I'll tell you what tournament I don't like. I don't like the little boards. The ones that are before.
Not a little board guy.
No, especially the ones because those are the ones before the NFL draft, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I find like that's just not appealing to me, so I won't ever give analysis. I know you do some of those, but like you can get values if people are wildly drafting players that aren't going to be drafted well in the NFL draft based on hype and whatever else. Somebody drafts Shadur Sanders because they were told he's going to be a first round pick. It's like, okay, I don't find those tournaments very, very fun. And I already forget they even existed because I'm just moving on to the summer. Yeah,
it's a different game, right? Like if you're being honest, you don't have draft capital, you don't have what team these guys are on, so you're not really sure how to build stacks. It's a different game where you're kind of, I think, trying to forecast. It's actually kind of fun. I like it because what we do for not only just betting the NFL draft, but also in a lot of our dynasty stuff is you're trying to look at projected draft capital and all those sort of things. And, you take free agency. So it's just a different time of the year to draft. You don't have information. So you're kind of just like trying to build positive EV teams and like letting the chips fall where they may. So I mostly do it because, Kyle, I'm a DGen and I need a little action in those months when all we have are...
That is the real reason.
Let's be honest. All we have are, NBA and we've got some hockey going on. But I'm with you. I mean, this is the time of year that I like to just really go in on drafts.
All right, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
It's officially time to slide into summer at Truist Park with great baseball and fun all summer long. Braves fans can enjoy live music in the Battery Atlanta and post-game fireworks every Friday, presented by Georgia Lottery. And new this year, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Park, with a kid-sized field, rock climbing wall, and more, is the perfect spot for your kiddos to hang out. So come spend your summer nights under the ballpark lights. Visit Braves.com/promos to find all the summer details. Atlanta Braves Baseball. We are Braves country.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
All right, this next question is from The Dude Abides on Discord, and I think it might be my favorite question. I mean, we have some fun ones in a little bit, but I think it just got me thinking. And so I did a lot of research on this and a lot of just soul searching about best ball. Because off air, I often joke with Betz about at the end of the day, I want people to do really, really well. I know that so much of DFS and betting and best ball is a losing proposition for so many people. It makes me that it's funny, and yet it's also sad because I don't want people to lose money. Somebody has to. If you're in the room with, and if you're in the lobby with me, in the cash lobby in DK, might be losing a few bucks in that dollar head to head.
I'll never recover from that.
But so the question is, what kind of data do we have for win rates or EV for best ball? Like, are these huge tournaments profitable in the long run? So we're going to go a lot of different directions here. I think it's a really good question. I'm thinking about making it into an article because I did so much research. But what's your general thought about best ball and EV? Because we can all say, we're all awesome at it, but this is hard.
And you need a lot of luck. Think about last year, right? If you were taking a lot of Rashee Rice, if you were on the right side of it and you were like, I don't think the suspension's going to happen. He's fallen to the 70s. He's in the 80s. I'm going to really hammer Rashee Rice. Technically,
you didn't know he was going to get injured?
Technically, you were right. It doesn't matter, right? Rashid Shaheed, one of the best picks of last year. obviously in the first month, things could have gone crazy towards the end, but season-ending injury. Like,
right.
The thing is, you have to run so pure in these large field tournaments to realize an edge. And the truth is that most people drafting BBM, the DK Millie, if you're putting in a ton of resources into this as far as your bankroll, like, you should expect to lose. That's just kind of the truth in the long run. As far as the large field lottos, there are a very, very, very finite amount of people to even make it to a Best Ball Mania final. like people that max enter the contest might have one or two teams in the final in a year. I think Herzig's the only one that's actually made it to every single BBM final that's existed the last, what is this, year 5 or 6? So, like, if you're doing that every single year, your bankroll probably reflects this. You're going to lose more than you win. That's just kind of the reality.
Correct.
Now, in DFS, we talk about that all the time. When you are playing tournaments and you understand that there's volatility associated with that, you could build good lineups. You could, make sure you have low roster guys, stack, all those sort of things. And you could lose for like 6, 7, 8 weeks in a row. And then like hit it big, right? In week 9 or week 10. And your entire year is made up for. That also exists in best ball, but it happens over the course of an entire year, like calendar years, right? So think about the analogy of DFS. If it happened in week 8, you're like, okay, it's only a couple months to sweat it out and I got my money back and I made money. If you're doing this seriously and you're doing it for like 6, 7 years in a row, you don't win till your 7th year, it's hard to sustain a bankroll for that long, right? Like, you have to be realistic with yourself. So that's kind of how I think about these. And, I used to draft in BBM every single year. I still throw some darts for fun, but like, I was putting way more of my bankroll in there. I looked back over the first like 3 seasons of it and 4 seasons, and I was like, I'm just losing money. Like, I should save these funds, put them in smaller contests, things that I actually think I can win at. And as a result, my ROI over the last couple seasons has been way better than it was initially. So I think that's one thing that people don't do enough. We talk about contest selection all the time in DFS, but nobody really talks about it in best ball. I think it's so important if you're taking this seriously.
Yeah, I actually wrote that exact same thing down. I said, like, man, we do not talk about contest selection enough for best ball because you're in the middle of it. And for some people, your goal is, this is fun. This is helping me for redraft, which is totally true. Like Papa Josh, one of our editors, customer service guy for footballers, he was like, why do you guys talk about best ball so much? And the angle that got him was it helped him for the main league for the footballers, and he was hooked and he loved it. But a lot of times we just kind of have a free-for-all and the contests pop up on Underdog or DraftKings. You're like, oh, cool, there's a new contest, and you don't have a chance just to take a step back. So I want to kind of set this up in a couple different ways, because the average or casual person, and I'm actually going to throw myself in there. I know I talk about it on the podcast, but like, I'm not going to max enter the BBM. That's not my bankroll. And when I look at my bankroll for the year and what I set aside, I'm pretty like set of, here's what I'm going to bet, here's what I'm going to do for best ball, and then here's what I'm starting off as my initial deposit for DFS. That's where I'm going. I'm not depositing again. Best ball is just a much smaller percentage for me. And so entering the BBM is a negative EV move. Like, first off, there's a rake. You know that at least 10 to 12% is going to be gone for most tournaments. And then when you factor in the cost and you factor in just what the fields do, I guarantee you that 83% of the field is already done, because that's what the numbers say. That 83% of Best Ball Mania will not return any money. They've deposited it to Underdog, and I'm one of those people too over the years. So roughly, 16.6% is going to get a return on their money. And the people like Justin Herzig or everybody else that are really smart and really respect them, that max enter, have so many more darts, just so many that they can handle the losses. But I looked at the expected ROI of somebody that puts in 100 entries into Best Ball Mania, which for us is like, I'm not going to do that, but 150 is the max. It's negative 15%. Like, even if you had an above average advance rate and in the next couple rounds, you are still expected to lose money on average in the format unless you hit it really big in the finals. And we all know how hard that could be. There is a place in best ball that can be plus EV, even very EV. And Jason Moore was actually one of those people that years ago figured this out. Like, I just need to do 12-man leagues. So Jason doesn't really do tournaments at all. Like, rarely can we get him to participate in an Underdog tournament. But the 12-man leagues is basically saying, I need to beat my room. And if you're somebody who has your head plugged in, you're listening to this podcast, you have the DFS pass, I would say you're already in that 50 percentile. Like you're already up there. You're plugged in. You're doing this for a good reason. You can make good roster construction. You just need to beat 11 drafters. So at the end of the day, if you want this to be something that is like, I want to return money, I would encourage you to go a couple of small fields and all 12 mans. That's not as fun, but that's really the only way to really explain this if you were to do it that way.
For sure. And I think, again, to go back to some of the DFS discussion, kind of how it relates to this, like there's been a move in the last couple of years. It's like, is cash even worth it for people? And maybe not every person it is. But like for me, like I know if I was just playing tournaments exclusively, whether it's best ball or DFS, like, yeah, I'll win every once in a while, but like it's hard to lose a lot and just be like, all right, we're doing this again. And so I think some of these 12 mans can help you, just like we talk about cash for DFS, help you sustain your bankroll over time as well. So yeah, I think it's a good reminder for myself as well, and a lot of people listening too.
Yeah, the tournament I did best last year, the best in was the Hound Dog, right? The Hound Dog, was that the one that I did?
That's the one.
Yeah.
And then Ricky Pearsall drop kick you right in the forehead.
Right in the finals. But that one was a $6 entry fee, 5 max. So I just felt good that I maxed into the tournament, $30, basically like one BBM entry, and I was able to have a couple different shots in a field size that's way smaller. Like that one is only 18,000 people. So there's just tournaments out there that are a lot better. Maybe we'll put out some articles about contest selection for best ball, because it is very, very important. All right, next question from Saints to Death, who is maybe one of our most consistent Discord members. What's your thoughts on late veteran running back signings affecting the backfield before camp, like Dobbins or Chubb? Are you worried about cap ceilings, or will talent always rise? So let's talk about these two situations. What did you update in the ranks?
So I definitely moved RJ Harvey down a little bit and moved Dobbins up significantly. And I just was never buying the Audric Estime. He'll get more of those touches. He'll get more opportunities. Actually, speaking of this concept, Julia Papworth is one of our awesome writers. She's our editor. She and I are doing a series this summer. Basically, it's like news or noise, like kind of what are you reacting to in the fantasy football world, and how are you adjusting? I remember writing on that article, I was like, oh, they love Estime so much they brought in J.K. Dobbins for a visit. A few days later, they sign him. So I feel like for me, this is a situation in Denver where they definitely want to use a committee. That's been Sean Payton's MO for years, since whenever he's had the opportunity to be a coach. And this signing says that is imminent. At the same time, we're thinking about late season upside with a lot of these players and kind of how we're building our teams. I think RJ Harvey, from a week 1 to week 4 projection, might not look that good. But J.K. Dobbins has been in the league for quite a while. He will flash. He's missed a ton of time. He's probably best suited at this point of his career to be a 10 touch per game type of guy and try to stay healthy the entire season. We saw him fall off again last year, with the Chargers. So when I'm thinking about these two guys, I think Dobbins is a nice pair for somebody that you're trying to wait on, whether it's a rookie and injury, something like that. And I think at the same time, Harvey is a nice pairing if you've got Kamara or somebody that's, quote unquote boring veteran, because you're counting on that late season upside anyway. So yeah, I did move Harvey down. I did move Dobbins way up. I think Dobbins is draftable in the, 140s to 150s-ish range is kind of where I've got him. Kind of where he goes with some of these locked in RB2s of trying to think off the top of my head, Algier, Benson. Yeah, that group. It's kind of the same bet, but you'll have some usable weeks from Dobbins regardless of Harvey's status and injury, just because I do think he'll get, like I said, a role in the offense regardless of what happens with RJ Harvey.
I'm a little bit lower, but right now he's going, he's in that 170s range, the Rico Dowdle, Jalen Wright kind of range. I do think it's a backfield that at the end of the year, one of the things we study a lot is just total team fantasy points, or skill points is how we have it in some of our spreadsheets. I do think you look at the Broncos, they can be a top 10 unit. It's just kind of depending on where in the season. So you kind of laid out the scenario if it's Dobbins for a little bit and then Harvey down the stretch is that guy. I think it's an offense that I want to invest in, and yet it still feels thin. Like it's a thin offense from a projection of looking at Sutton, who I'm also lower on. I like Ingram where he goes. Pat Bryant is interesting, but I'm still like projecting about what he could be. And then Mims is in no man's land for me. I never know what to do with Mims in a draft. So it's a team that I think will be good, and yet in best ball, they're not really there in ADP. Like they don't reflect how good this team is going to be, 9-10 win team. So that one's interesting to me. And then the Texans one, Chubb has always been hanging around that like 200 range for me. I'm at 187 right now. So if he's there, he's there. I'm not saying be bullish on him. Mixon, I was already a little bit lower. I put him in a tier of running backs where I was like, I don't really need him. I have him at 59 right now, right there with like James Cook, Kamara, Chuba, those kind of guys.
Yeah, I think Chubb is, like, of these two, I'd prefer Dobbins. Chubb is tough because on one hand, the contract is nothing. Like he signed basically for the same as Elijah Mitchell in Kansas City. On the other hand, it makes sense because he was available at this point in time.
He's making less than you this year.
Exactly, dude. Hey, no comment. The contract does not say that there's enough incentive to like feed him the ball. Mixon still has the fourth highest cap hit of any running back in the NFL right now. So to me, like, I think Chubb probably has to have Mixon miss time to have like really nice weeks for us. And the thing is like, I'm just not even sure where Nick Chubb is as a player. Obviously last year we were just completely out because of the devastating knee injury. This is a player now who over the last 2 years has spent just rehabbing. That's all he's done in the last 2 years. He broke his foot last year. I believe 29 years old now. It's like, I just don't know how much juice is left in the tank. We also have a ton of offensive line concerns with Houston still. So it's like, I get why people would be excited at Nick Chubb, but I'm not going to chase him up to the 180s, 170s, stuff like that, until we have more clarity on what they're expecting with Mixon in his role this year. So right now, I've got him in the 200s. Like, I'm fine if he's there, but I'm not chasing him up is kind of how I'm approaching it.
Does anybody look stronger while in rehab than Nick Chubb, though?
I love Nick Chubb. I hope he gets back. I mean, it's better for the NFL. It's fun to watch. Dude has been an absolute monster for, 10 years now?
I have a Nick Chubb shirt that I wore one year to one of my drafts because he was one of my keepers. This is like 5 or 6 years ago. And I haven't worn that shirt in a long time.
Time to break it out.
But maybe got to bust it out today. I'm wearing a Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews shirt.
Okay.
That feels good.
This will be the last year.
Boys.
This will be the last year you can wear that.
I did think about that too. Next question is from IGW. It looks like they're an Eagles fan. So one of your friends, is this your handle? What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Burner?
Your burner? Oh.
Your burner account.
No. This is a good friend, a best friend, of course, as an Eagles fan.
Which strategies have worked every single year of best ball that you have data for versus which strategies have only worked specific years? Instead of me going through everything, Hayden Winks of Underdog actually has written an article called What Has Worked in All 5 Years of Best Ball Mania. And that's a good one, just to throw that out there. We like other people in the industry and we like Hayden and Josh. So what has worked in all 5 years of Best Ball Mania is an article. But a lot of what's worked is more like general roster construction stuff of what not to do. So like, don't do this. Don't draft 2 elite quarterbacks or don't draft 2 elite tight ends. You think you're being smart of like, man, I'm going to bully the room. I'm going to have Lamar and Josh Allen. And everybody else is actually in the corner laughing at you because you took 2 quarterbacks. Like when I see people take 2 elite quarterbacks, I'm just like, this is great. Or in years past, people were like, oh, I'll take Kelsey and Kittle. And I'm just going to show everybody what to do. You basically needed Kelsey and you didn't need Kittle those years because of, how structure works. But at the end of the day, like it's more of a general thing. Like you need 6 or 7 wide receivers. If you don't have 6 or 7 wide receivers, it's not going to work. You need 5 or 6 running backs. And depending on how you do your quarterbacks and tight ends, you need 2 to 3. That's the general thing. I think the question that he's looking for is about 0 RB. Last year, 0 RB was not great. And it's kind of swinging year to year based on which running backs stay healthy. So it's hard to say this one running back strategy works every single time.
Yeah, and the running backs I should say the zero RB strategy from previous seasons, not last year, but 2 years ago, 3 years ago, was working because at the time, guys like Mike Davis, if you recall that season, were, 5th round picks.
Dude, he was up really high in ADP that year.
He was like a 5th round pick or a 4th round pick at points that season, whenever that was. That was a couple of seasons ago. But like, as we get a year over year data on this stuff, like people are sharper, drafters are smarter, not making like those egregious decisions anymore. So zero RB, of course, was going to work when, Mike Davis was like a top 40 pick or 50 pick. And obviously things have changed. I think that there is not as strong of a push for it this year when I look at the landscape, because while running backs are priced up, it's still not like crazy egregious as far as some of the running back prices. Like we just talked about RJ Harvey in the 70s or Caleb Johnson and some of those guys that fall. Like Alvin Kamara is totally fine where he goes. Like the old years of drafting, Alvin Kamara would be like a 3rd round pick, right? It's like, this is the starting running back of the Saints. He's going to get everything. So things have changed. So I don't think zero RB is as strong. I still think it is a viable strategy, but I don't think it's as strong as it used to be. So that's why we were talking at the first question we had, that we prefer that hero RB approach where you are getting one of these top 15 or so running backs to make sure that you've got some firepower there. But yeah, as you said, just the basic stuff works, right? Like you don't have to get crazy. Just don't draft 2 elite tight ends. Don't draft 2 elite quarterbacks. Make sure you've got enough wide receiver firepower. And all of these things should come back to what you did in your draft from a draft capital standpoint. If you're betting on wide receivers early, you don't need 9 or 10. If you're betting on running backs early, you don't need 7, right? Like just make sure that you're kind of following the basics and putting together good teams. And over time, hopefully, you kind of get lucky and win some money.
All right, great question here from Kenny Cass. He asks, as a fellow Chili's enthusiast, what is your order of choice?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a classic man, Kyle. So first thing I do when I walk in, they see me walk in, they grab the Don Julio. Obviously, you're starting there. I'm getting the fajitas, man. I mean, I'm not getting fancy. That's what I go for. I go for the sizzle.
They're sizzling.
Yeah, when they come out, you hear the sizzle and you turn and you see your waiter or waitress walking towards you. It just makes me so happy. So yeah, I'm a classic man, Kyle. What about you?
Obviously, the drink's there before I even sit down. That's a given. Water. No, just kidding.
You call ahead.
Waters for the table, please. And then I get my, free chips and salsa with the app, and I leave.
No tip?
Without
right
paying.
Out the door.
Yeah. We do get chips and salsa pretty much every single time with a side of what we used to get, Ancho Ranch. They don't have Ancho Ranch anymore at Chili's.
Pour one out.
I'm never going to disparage Chili's. That was a bad move. That was a really bad move. So we still get some ranch too. So salsa, ranch, chips every single time. Also, I'm a big fan of the quesadilla explosion salad.
Oh, you have talked about that before.
Yeah. I need the extra dressing on the side, like their balsamic dressing. But sometimes Emma and I will just split that. I mean, we're not going to be on the same side of the booth. Like we're not that couple. But we are there sharing a quesadilla explosion salad, 2 Don Julios, some chips and salsa. That's romance.
That's love.
Yeah. So that was a great question. I feel like I don't really stray too much from that. Sometimes if you want to get some, appetizer stuff, I mean, there's somebody listening right now like, okay, fam, Chili's night. They were talking it up.
Tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be the move. Let's take another break and we'll be back.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
At 1-800-Flowers.com, we know that connections are at the heart of being human. Whether celebrating life's joys or comforting during tough times, 1-800-Flowers helps you express what words can't. For nearly 50 years, millions have trusted 1-800-Flowers to deliver thoughtful gifts that help create lasting bonds. Because it's more than just a gift. It's your way of showing you care. Visit 1-800-Flowers.com/Pandora and connect today. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Pandora.
Next question off of Discord is from Dexterski. Asks, since the hit rate on NFL drafting quarterbacks in the first round is about 46%, which of last year's first-round quarterbacks are you most afraid of being a bust in year 2? I did some research because we have a lot of stuff about rookie quarterbacks. I have the spreadsheets, as they say, about rookie quarterbacks, but I had to kind of figure out where this number was coming from because we need to define what hit rate is. A lot of times in Dynasty, you and I will talk about a second-round draft pick has this, 37% hit rate. You need to think about it in NFL terms and then in fantasy terms. So for the NFL, I'm defining it as, do they get a second contract with their team? Do you think that's like a fair question to set up? If this team drafts this player in the first round and they don't give them a second contract, it was a bad pick.
I think so.
For a quarterback.
And just like with the way the NFL works, as far as like you got to pay your quarterback, that's just what you do. You have to keep him. Like Trevor Lawrence, for example, right? Like we've had one season in fantasy where he's been good, but like for NFL standards, like he's average NFL starting quarterback, but you got to pay those guys to keep him as a starter. Like you just have to. So yeah, I mean, that's a good example. You see players that get drafted and then very quickly in 2 years, sometimes 3, like you kind of know, Will Levis is not getting a second contract, obviously, from the Titans. Anthony Richardson looks unlikely to get a second contract from the Colts. Like you kind of know pretty quickly. So yeah, I think if a team sees that you have the starting capabilities to like do what the offense wants you to do and stick around and be a top half of the league starter, which it's crazy because like you would think in this giant world we live in that there's so many human beings, you could find better 32 people to play quarterback. But every year we get to like week 12 and you're like, okay, here comes the bad quarterback play for the last month and a half. So yeah, teams pay their starters because it's hard to find a good starting quarterback.
I can see you crafting the tweets now. It's week 16, and the starting quarterbacks we have to choose from are like Mason Rudolph, all these other.
I'm playing
random...
Dylan Gabriel at 4K in cash that week.
He's the stone min, but you're going for it?
I only need 12 points.
Yeah, it's like, well, last week in a limited time, he actually completed 67% of his passes and ran a little bit. That'll be the analysis we give. All right, so here's the data. Do they get a second contract with the team that drafted them since 2012? It's Andrew Luck's year. 44% of first-round quarterbacks signed a contract extension with the team that drafted them. If you just look since 2016, and obviously we're not going to talk about Stroud or Bryce Young because they're not up for contract extensions, but if you just look since 2016, the number is about 54%. So if we're using that as hit rate, it's pretty close. It's about 50-50. Is this person going to be your franchise quarterback beyond the first contract? In fantasy, 39% of first-round quarterbacks hit 17-plus fantasy points per game. That's about a top 12 mark. And then by year 2, 55% of first-round quarterbacks hit that mark. So it really is almost a 50-50 shot of did you draft somebody who's going to be a franchise quarterback or a fantasy difference maker in the first 2 years. It's very rare to get there later on in your career because you're not going to get the opportunities. So with that question, who are you most scared of busting among Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Bo Nix, and then I guess we can throw in Penix and McCarthy, but we're going to give them passes. We're going to focus on the first 4.
Yeah, I think real quick on Penix, maybe you can speak to this more than me, being the Falcons guy.
Great.
I hope he's him.
He could suck.
Because they're putting all their eggs in the Penix basket and
throws a pretty ball
and praying it works. And I'm not saying it won't. I just like, we only saw how many starts did he have last year? 3?
3.
I don't know, man. So it could go either way. So I'm not concerned, but I'm like not as convinced that he's like definitely the starter moving forward for the next few years. But with that trade of the first round pick next year, they are committed. So I'm a little worried about that situation just in general. I don't want to beat a dead horse because we talked about it a ton, but Caleb was bad last year, man. Granted, the offensive line wasn't great. Granted, the scheme wasn't good. The play calling wasn't good. Totally understand all those things. But like he and of himself, just because Ben Johnson is there does not mean he will be better. He will be great. I think he has the tools to. I think there's obviously a world that exists where he's going to be awesome. But I also think there's a world that exists where, like, man, he can't get rid of the ball. He's holding it too long. And the offensive line, let's not kid ourselves, like, is better. It's not the Broncos or the Eagles type of level, right? Like, it's top half, but it's not the best in the league. So I just think, again, we talked about this a lot with the Bears, and I don't want to just keep going over it, but, like, I'm not as confident as the market that this is guaranteed to work the way everybody is assuming.
Yes. We talked about him for Dynasty. He's already priced up as if he's going to do this. And Betz mentioned, I mean, he was 44th among 47 qualifying quarterbacks in catchable target rate. He was dead last in passing EPA. He had 41 throwaways. That's most in the NFL by more than 11. So a lot of this stuff was just erratic. He was really bad against man coverage and tight windows. So all of that to say is it can work for fantasy because the game we play, it can work out. Like, he ran the ball a ton last year, more than I thought he would, and he never got in the end zone. So I think some of that will definitely correct. With Jane Daniels, it's really hard to poke holes using last year's stats. There's not many areas to improve. He was still, his pressure to sack ratio was at 27.6%. That was 43rd among 47 qualifying quarterbacks. Like, young quarterbacks, that's kind of typical. And only 10% of his attempts were deep. This is the thing that I looked at with Daniels and Nix, is we can use their stats about how good they were last year, and now teams have a full year of film that they can adjust defensively and say, hey, Bo Nix, 62% of your throws were under 10 yards. Why are we sitting so far back in coverage? We need to dare this guy to beat us consistently in the intermediate area of the field. Same thing with Jaden Daniels. Like, you got a Terry McLaurin shot, and what else is going to work? And also, Debo's fat now, so that's going to be tough.
Oh, no, we have Fat Keenan again? Fat Debo?
Oh, man, Fat Keenan was quite a time to be alive last summer. This year, we already have Fat Debo, and we're not even in mid-June yet.
Can you imagine what he's going to look like in August? Goodness. Real quick, too, I was just looking this up because I wanted to remind myself, for Caleb, from a clean pocket last year, this is per PFF, he was 26 out of 30 quarterbacks that qualified in adjusted completion percentage from a clean pocket. The only players that were worse were Bryce Young, Jameis Winston, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson. So just to reiterate, like, some of this is on him, not all of it, obviously, but some of it is on him as a player.
All right, next question is from Brevin. What are each of your favorite contrarian takes this year, and how often are you using those unique stances as leverage when creating unique teams? My first thought that I wrote down is I haven't taken a lot of the elite quarterbacks. Maybe that's where, like, in rankings-wise, I'm right there with the market. It's just they get grabbed up sometimes more, or I just like grabbing the, wide receivers that are in that range, so I end up not having those players as much. But I really looked at my rankings, and some of my rankings have clear tier breaks that is different than what the ADP is on Underdog. So, for instance, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, I have all grouped together. Like, I'm fine with those guys, but I'm behind market on all three of them. So I end up not really taking them as much because of the way my rankings are. That isn't saying they're bad players, just saying that's my unique stance of how I have my rankings, where I have 5 wide receivers ranked ahead of them. McConkey, T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison, and Devonta Adams. I end up taking those players a lot more.
Yeah, makes sense. One thing I'll say too is just, we already talked about this, but running backs were great last year, and so you have 10 running backs going in the first 2 rounds on Underdog. I am still trying to kind of limit my number of running backs drafted early, just because I think people will assume last year is the new norm, and obviously we know chaos happens, and that's not the way it works. For context, here are the number of running backs by season with 10 plus rushing scores. Last year we had 11 of them. In 2023 we had 8. Year before, 8, 7, 10, 7, and 6. So on Underdog, where touchdowns matter a ton, last year was an outlier, so I don't want to chase that. So that's one of the stances I've made. And then I also mentioned, just kind of taking a note here, like, if you recall last year's conversation, in hindsight, it sounds hilarious and silly, but it's like, man, these elite tight ends, they've never been cheaper. And we were drafting a declining Kelsey, and Laporta was the first guy off the board, and imagine thinking Mark Andrews was a good pick last year. Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts, Evan Ingram, like, they were all pushed up so high. Jake Ferguson as a top 80 pick is hilarious. in hindsight. At the time, it made sense. In hindsight, it's hilarious. And now you've only got 6 in the top 100 on Underdog. So the market has shifted really far one way or the other. And now I'm like, I don't know. Is Dalton Kincaid that bad of a pick at 130? Like, it's probably pretty good. So I'm kind of like actually into some of the guys that were terrible last year because they've now at a price where nobody's excited to click them. But I see a path just like last year for guys like Evan Ingram and Jake Ferguson, and even Dalton Kincaid. And now they're way cheaper. So I don't know if that's more of a unique stance or take, but just kind of to point out that's what's changed so much last year at the tight end landscape.
All right, next one is from Brock. Are you taking day 3 rookie wide receivers yet, or are you waiting until more clarity from camp? For example, would you take Thornton with the Raiders or Lane with the Commanders? Those players just, they're like only viable in Dynasty right now. Like, that's the only place that they are in my mind. Last year, the day 3 rookie wide receivers that were good were Vele, Troy Franklin, and Jordan Whittington. That was the best of the best. And they were mostly irrelevant. Whittington had some fun DFS moments when he was cheap. But we're going to be waiting. Like, I'm not drafting these guys.
No, I mean, you got to make sure these guys are making the team first. If they did not get drafted in your Dynasty rookie draft that goes 4 rounds, like I just want to make sure this guy is making the team, right? So yeah, these examples I have not taken much, if at all. It does get thin in round 20 on DraftKings, so like I kind of get it over there. But in general, this is not the part of the calendar year where you want to be making huge stands on these thin bets.
And just to give you some data, I went back through over the last decade at every single wide receiver that's drafted on day 3, rounds 4, 5, 6, 7. 4% of them hit 10 fantasy points per game in year 1. 4%. And that's in full PPR. So like, they're mostly irrelevant. The best of the best, we think of Puka, we think of Tyreek, we think of Amon-Ra. It's basically been irrelevant. So I just think it's not something in best ball that I want zeros in my lineup. There might be a guy that is one of those dudes this year. I don't know. Like Arian Smith of the Jets. Could he be the wide receiver 2 by the end of the year ahead of, dusty Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard? Sure. Like, that's interesting to me. I won't be taking him. The only one that I looked at my exposures that I have taken is Jalen Royals with the Chiefs.
Yeah, and again, not that these guys are horrible picks right now. Well, I guess we are saying they aren't great, but like they might become good picks 2 weeks before the season starts because an injury happened or something like that, or
correct,
they're running as the wide receiver 2 and we thought it was the other guy and we were wrong for 4 months. So they might not be bad picks the entire offseason, but I think right now with the information we have, which is basically nothing except for draft capital, that they are not great picks, we would say.
All right, from Kurt Knows Best, has Kyle and his highbrow tea drinking self made his way into drinking matcha yet? I do like some hot tea. Betz likes hot tea.
Yep.
I have not had matcha yet. One of my really, really close friends who lives in my neighborhood has switched over to matcha and has it every single morning. I haven't had it yet, but he's definitely like opened me up to at least try it. But I wouldn't be drinking it to sound cool. I would do it because it tastes good, and it doesn't sound like it tastes good.
I've never had it.
Okay. So is that like do you want to try that out together?
Sure.
It sounds really cool of us.
Super
hey,
cool.
Yeah, no, I haven't had matcha yet. All right. Last question here before we get to our intervention is from Harry Ballman Jones on Discord. Great handle. Borg Betz, have you guys switched up your personal approach at all this year in best ball in particular? Any new favorite underlying metrics, roster constructions, or anything else? My first thing that I talked out the other day in Discord, I thought it was worth repeating, is I've thought about this for a while with best ball, but I think season-long projections, we talk about that a lot with props. For best ball, I don't really look at it very much because the format is only taking the best of the best scores of certain players, right? We're not taking all of Josh Allen's points. Last year, for instance, you only got 68% on average of Josh Allen's points because you're only taking him when he's a really good scorer. You're obviously not using his bye weeks. So it's hard for me to think of the format and see why projections, like if you're in Underdog or DraftKings, there is there's the ADP and then right next to it, it's the projections. And at the very end, you do your draft and you go, man, my projections are not as good as team whatever in my draft room. It's irrelevant to me. It really doesn't matter because of roster construction and everything else. They could have taken a quarterback, a fourth or fifth quarterback, and their projections look very, very different than yours. So I tend to not really care about season-long projections. And something this year that I've thought a lot about, and shout out to Spike Week, Eric Beimfor, who have you been? I can't remember if you were on his show one time.
It's been a couple years, but yeah, one time.
Spike Week is one of the better best ball specific websites in the industry, but he's talked about this, and he has a tool where he finds out the common pairings of certain players. So for instance, if you take Saquon Barkley, who's going second overall, that side of the board ends up having pretty common pairings. So if you're in a large field tournament, you are going to get a lot of different players with Saquon Barkley that, if you go running backs, you're going to end up with either Taylor, Bucky Irving, or Josh Jacobs, the guys that I mentioned earlier, if you go double running back early. All the wide receivers pushed on that spot. You get a lot of Cortland Sutton and DK Metcalf, Jerry Jeudy, Jacoby Myers. All of those guys are pushed on that side of the board, and he found there's a lot of common pairings. So for large field tournaments, I have been thinking more about okay, what is everybody drafting here? Because there's a lot of teams that have Bengals stacks with Marvin Harrison Jr. That's happening, or Garrett Wilson. Those are pretty common.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure. And kind of to the same point, one thing I've been doing more this year and last year is trying to think about this game that we're playing as more of a DFS game than a here's the guys you should draft thing, which got me burned last year, right? I was super into Rashee Rice, and I don't know if just I'm being too results oriented, but I got burned last year with how much Rashee Rice I had. And maybe if he stayed healthy, I'd feel differently, and that might be a fault to my own. But things like that, where it's I love Jalen Warren. I was drafting a ton of him, but I also was drafting a ton of zero RB because the data said we should do that. And because I was doing that, I was taking a lot of Jalen Warren on those teams, right? So all my teams kind of looked similar. So this year I'm trying to think about embracing unknown, flat out, nobody knows what's going to happen over the next 4 months, 5 months. And if you embrace that and you're willing to build teams that can compete in week 17 versus saying these are the guys I need to have, I think you're going to be better in the long run. It's kind of how I'm viewing it for tournaments. Not to say that I won't have player takes, especially on certain injuries and stuff like that. But I think being able to draft or focus on drafting the teams that can compete, not the players that you need, is what I've shifted away from for the last couple of years.
The problem, my friend, is I don't know if you've learned your lesson. So as we kind of finish out this podcast, it's time for a little bit of an intervention. I think really highly of you, Matthew. I feel like we've been friends. I was recently at your house. But I can't let you do this to yourself yet again, because as you just said, you were really in on a player last year named Rashee Rice. And looking at your exposures, you're back there again, my friend. He's right. He is one of your highest rostered wide receivers. He's going right now all the way up at wide receiver 13. About a month ago, he was a little bit lower. He was in that wide receiver 17 or 18 range. And maybe you got some of them. That's nice. It's good for you. But I just want to tell you, I feel like there are some warning signs. I'm going to give you a quick stat. I'll let you respond. As a good friend, this is just a chance for us to kind of change things. It's mid-June. You still have a lot of room to grow. The way that Rashee Rice gets his fantasy points, to me, raises a few red flags. Okay, you can give me all the statistics of how good he was. Last year, he was going to be a league winner. We're not going to dwell on that anymore. Okay, that season's past. It's gone. 68% of his career yardage has come after the catch. That is the fourth highest rate of any wide receiver the last 5 years. Let me name you all the wide receivers that are in this range. Okay, above 50% of the yards are Yak, Rondale Moore, Laviska Shenault, Greg Dortch. You have a type. Rashee Rice, Mecole Hardman, Deebo Samuel, there's one, Khalil Shakir, Demario Douglas, Wan'Dale Robinson, Braxton Berrios, Ray McLeod, and Devin Duvernay. Other than Deebo Samuel, no one else on this list has been a top 36 wide receiver. Okay? You are really asking a lot for this guy to continue to be the yak guy in the short area of the field when I know that Travis Kelce's old. They're in the same area. And also, we didn't have a game last year that Rice, Worthy, and Brown were all on the field at the same time. They will start the year that way. So I care about you, my friend, but you need to slow it down.
The fact that Greg Dortch and Rashee Rice are the same player is what you're saying.
They're right
makes me so happy. I will say my average drafted or ADP rather on my Rashee Rice teams and exposures is 32.1. So
okay,
I called my shot early in the summer and said, like everybody asks me in Discord all the time, and I'm not saying don't ask me questions, but the injury tracker is live. It's in there. And I've been saying I think Rashee Rice is going to be fine for this season and for week 1 and training camp. And now we finally have that positive drumbeat of his news
Has that
injury.
helped his DraftKings ADP?
He's slowly
Has he had
up.
the Q?
He did have the Q tag previously. Last I looked, I think it's gone. Could be wrong on that, but he is moving up. And so I was taking him a ton when there was a lot of unknown and like we were unsure. And it was like, man, I don't know. This guy, all he's done since he's been in the NFL is put up fantasy points and caught a ton of passes. Like, I don't think he's that great of an actual NFL wide receiver. I don't want him out there on 3rd and 6. You got to have it on the perimeter and beat this guy man to man. But this is a Pat Mahomes offense and he puts up fantasy points. And I knew I could get him cheaper than where he will go.
Okay.
So I do think now, like, I don't know, maybe now I come back and I'm more of a worthy guy in July. I don't know. But yeah, I am back up there in exposure with Rashee Rice. But my goal was like, let's get the best price on him and then maybe sit it out. So we'll see. The player I wanted to bring up for you, Kyle, for your intervention, you're chasing a guy who has a really high touchdown rate from last year.
Man, I love that. I love touchdowns.
They're definitely going to repeat year over year. They always do. I mean, Rashad Bateman, is that really what you want to risk your kid's future on? The 3rd or 4th option in a low volume passing offense? Lamar's coming off a career year as a passer. We've always been huge Lamar guys. I mean, you're wearing the Lamar shirt. But I don't know, man. This is still a Derrick Henry team. I think the defense is going to be a lot better than they were. Remember the first 6, 7, 8 weeks? Like it was just bananas every single game for DFS. They were going crazy. I don't know we're going to get that this year. So you're taking a player who didn't have that much volume, just scored touchdowns, and now you're saying that's the guy you need in 2025. Are you well, my friend?
Well, it does help. When I saw that contract extension come through the other day, I go, whew, okay.
Thank
they
goodness.
Believe in this guy's. This is his 3rd contract, by the way.
I know. They just signed him to extension. I think it was last offseason.
Yes. I mean, they must love this guy. They must view him as their one. You know, to them, touchdowns are the only thing that matter. They play best ball.
Or he's got something on the coaches.
Probably.
Blackmail.
Yeah. So Bateman goes in a place that I'm totally comfortable with him being, you know, he's wide receiver 57 right now. It's gone up from where he was. He's at 111. And in my rankings, like I've kind of been ahead of market where I know it's a good offense. And if I miss out on Ravens early, like I know that I can get him. So let's see where I have him right now. Ooh, I am a little bit ahead. Whoa. I'm at 103. He's at 111 right now. You're saying I need to drop him a little.
I'm not saying that you don't want any Rashad Bateman. I'm just not sure like that's the guy you're singling out in that little pocket of the draft. I don't know. And granted, last year where he was going, he was a great pick for that ADP cost. This year he's pushed up.
Oh, I'm playing best ball from last year. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So obviously right now he's pushed up, 4 rounds, 5 rounds compared to last year. So you're asking him to do a lot more. 9 touchdowns on just 45 catches. I don't know. Just not sure how repeatable that is. And that probably speaks to Lamar as a potential passing regression candidate, right? Mark Andrews, 11 touchdowns on, I don't even know how many catches, not that many. Bateman, same thing. Like maybe Lamar regresses in the touchdown passing department this year.
Yeah, I just want pieces of the passing game, and going past pick 100, I just think he's just very clickable along with Isaiah Likely. And you look at the rest of the depth chart, I haven't been taking a lot of Hopkins. I haven't been taking Devontae Walker.
I forgot
There's literally
about
nobody else.
Hopkins.
That I think he forgets that he's on this team because he's changed teams so much. But let me give you a couple other names as we close out. Past pick 100 that you are saying, you know what, I like this player. I'll be clicking them more. Keon Coleman.
Fine.
You have not been clicking the button on him, have you?
I just did today on a Josh Allen team.
All right. Luther Burden, who has been falling and now is going past pick 100.
I'm just going
to
let him keep falling, and then I'll get some burden.
Trey Harris.
Fine. Like him.
Rashid Shaheed.
Fine. Like him.
Okay, Rashad Bateman. Let me interest you in that guy.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I think he's fine. It's just like, man. So here's Lamar's touchdown rate over the last 5 years. 6.9%, 4.2, 5.2, 5.3, 8.6. I mean, you're the numbers guy.
It's going to regress, but okay, let's say he gets 6 touchdowns instead of 9. I'm fine. Like, in this range, there's Kyle Williams. I hope he's the guy. Marvin Mims. Who knows if he's ever going to be on the field. Christian Kirk. He's going to slowly just fade from the league. Jack Bash is a Hall of Famer. Hollywood Brown. Quentin Johnston. It's like we can poke holes in all of these guys. Would we say that Baltimore is probably the best offense out of all of those I just listed?
For sure. But what you just made me realize is like, I want to have my wide receiver firepower wrapped up by the time I get to this part of the draft.
So I'm asking him to be my wide receiver 5 or 6.
Yeah, totally.
That's the player that I want to bet on being on the field as high in my exposures. You know, last year was Mooney. Year before was Gallup. Not so good. So
we'll forget about that. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, but Mooney was like, I mean, this podcast is still living off that. The only reason we're still in the air is because of Mooney.
Thank goodness for the moon, man.
Okay. That's going to do it for this episode. We have some good ones coming up. We got a live draft. Did you know that?
Next week?
Live draft coming up next week. We will give some details in Discord so that you can draft with us, because we want to shout out your name and tell you all the smart things you did and all the dumb things we did. We will definitely not make fun of you on this podcast. But yeah, we got a lot of good stuff. Make sure you check out the Best Ball Primer and everything else we have in the Ultimate Draft Kit Bets. Tell everyone goodbye.
Yes, man. Good episode. Next week is a great opportunity to take Kyle's lunch money. If I recall, I won that draft that we did on the show last year. No big deal. Ooh. Kind of a big deal. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Excited to draft with you next week. And we'll be back then. See ya. Have a good weekend.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.
We're interrupting this podcast to ask you a very important question. Have you had your Hershey's? When you need to brighten up your day, put a smile on your face with the classic creamy texture and pure milk chocolate flavor of Hershey's Milk Chocolate. Whether you're eating it on the go, breaking off a few pieces for s'mores night, or just treating yourself to something sweet, Hershey's Milk Chocolate checks all the boxes. Shop for Hershey's Milk Chocolate now at a store near you, found wherever candy is sold.
Did you know that skincare can start in the laundry room? All Free Clear is the #1 laundry detergent brand recommended by dermatologists, allergists, and pediatricians for sensitive skin. All Free Clear is 100% free of dyes and perfumes. It provides an effective clean that's gentle on skin while removing impurities like dirt and body oil without leaving irritating residues. Plus, All Free Clear Liquid is Safer Choice certified by the U.S. EPA. For a clean you can feel good about, all you need is All Free Clear.